This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here are your hosts, Ryan Alford and Chris Hansen.
What's up, y'all? We've got a special episode today of Vibe Science this week, sponsored by Vion. It's an NAD self-injection pen out of the UK. It's an immaculate product. I've been sampling it myself. And I'm sitting down with Dr. Rudy Eberwein. He's a previous guest we've had on. He's a specialist in men's health and longevity down here in Miami. And he sits down and we talk about NAD as a whole. There's a lot of talk about it right now. And then also the benefits of the Vion NAD self-injection pen. So give it a listen. Super interesting episode. A lot of real applicable information. And Dr. Rudy always drops a bunch of knowledge for you guys. Enjoy. Have a great week. All right, y'all. Here we are. Vion NAD Plus, the first self-injection pen, and I'm here with the infamous Dr. Rudy Eberwein. And we're going to talk about NAD injections, NAD as a whole, NMN, cellular energy, and the benefits of these new emerging products. You've probably heard a lot about them. So we want to break it down and kind of simplify it and just let you guys know the benefits of these things that we're hearing about. So, Doc, how you doing? Good to see you.
Doing good, man. So happy to be here, man.
Yeah.
Excited to bring all of this information. So NAD has become the buzzword of the wellness and longevity world, right?
Yeah.
I've been in this world for 20 years now. So what do we usually talk about? Testosterone, right? Muscle, lean muscle mass, losing body fat, visceral adipose tissue, inflammation, inflammaging, all of those terms that we've been hearing. But NAD just snuck into this, right? 2 or 3 years ago, nobody heard about NAD.
Yeah.
We've been using NAD in our clinic. We've tried many different forms of NAD because I'm going to tell you, I remember my years in biochemistry. Right, when I was in pre-med. This is where I first learned about NAD because NAD is one of the most important, it's not the most important coenzyme to help your body make ATP. ATP is the currency of energy. So the way our body works, our body is like an efficient car, a machine. Yeah. The way cellular respiration happens is we take in food and our body needs to transform the food into energy to make our body work. So by making energy, also you produce waste. The more efficient the engine is, the mitochondria or your physiology is as making energy and not making too much waste, the younger you are, the better you feel. When we're young, the machine is very efficient. So NAD is the coenzyme that makes the last step in the electron transport chain to transform whatever food you take in into ATP. Without NAD, you can't make ATP. ATP, without ATP, you die. So mitochondria make ATP. So NAD participates with the mitochondria to help your body form that energy. How much more important than that, right? So it's like your car. If I told you that you can drive the car, but you need the key to start it, to get everything going. That's what NAD is. So that's one of the main functions of NAD is that it provides the coenzyme for your body to make energy.
Got it.
Number 2, really important, it helps detoxify our system. And we use the term detoxification too much. Everything is a detoxification. NAD, because it really optimizes your neurotransmitter, all the signaling pathways, all the cellular metabolism, because your body functions better, because our cells can detoxify. You need to give it the right substrate, the right coenzyme, which NAD is. NAD is also very important for brain inflammation through one of the genes called sirtuin. Sirtuin is one of the most important genes that we have in our body that helps code for anti-inflammatory, antioxidant properties. Because again, when you think about antioxidants, we need to deal with the oxidants that our body makes during cellular respiration. NAD helps with all this.
The oxidative stress, as they call it, right?
Yeah, so the way I want people to think about oxidative stress, it's the exhaust from your car.
Got it.
Right? So let's think about a car.
Yeah.
You put gas in your car, the car burns the gas, use it for energy to propel, to go forward, but it creates exhaust. The body, we eat sugar, carbs, and fats. We need to transform that into power. That's through the Krebs cycle. NAD comes in and makes the ATP, and then you have all the waste. But if you don't have the right enzymes, NADPH, NAD plus, so it has to be in the right form for all of that complicated machinery to happen. And if anything is not optimal in that chain, you have more exhaust, not sufficient energy. So when you get the right form of NAD, because as we get older, just like everything, your body doesn't make as much NAD. As we get older, we don't make as much testosterone, as much whatever hormones. As you get older, it's like a car. The physiology, the efficiency of the engine is not as good. So the better substrate, the better the products you give it, the better your machine will function.
And probably like a car, the more longevity you'll have to the car.
Exactly. So again, so now what is it used for, NAD? We use it a lot for longevity, but longevity is this buzzword again. What do you mean longevity? Mm-hmm. And if you're 20, 30 years old, you're like, longevity, that doesn't apply to me. Yeah. So what I really see that it works, it's to first increase your energy because it makes ATP. So better energy, better recovery from exercise, brain function. It helps with brain fog significantly. Also with anti-inflammation. It's good as sirtuin, antioxidants. So if you have any of this, again, as we age, our machine is not as efficient. So having the right antioxidant, anti-inflammatory products is important. For addiction recovery, believe it or not, what it does, it helps the substrate, things like dopamine. It helps our body modulate dopamine better. So I have a clinic in Miami Beach where we do, we've met there, right? The ketamine clinic, we do a lot of addiction recovery. When we combine NAD with our treatments, our patients feel better. So it is really one of those things one of those supplements, the coenzyme, that is involved in so many physiologic reactions. I can't even cite all of them because there's so much stuff. Yeah. It's like the basic of cellular physiology. So, but to make it very simple for everybody, it's good for energy, recovery, brain function, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and it will help you live longer. That's win, 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 win.
And I feel like, and I tell this to people, everything you just said, and it's almost so all-encompassing that they still are like, okay, but I'm like, you realize reducing inflammation reduces all the other problems coming with it, right? I know we've started this, 2-3 months ago. We've been trialing this product. Obviously familiar with NAD, been using NMN products prior to this, so we can talk on that a little bit as far as the efficacy and whatnot. But I've definitely noticed an increase my overall energy throughout the day. I definitely feel less inflamed. Even when I feel I've had a cold or been sick, I think I recovered quicker than I have in the past. Let's go down the NMN road, because that's kind of a big thing, and that's a lot of questions I've been asked about this.
Yeah.
What's the difference? And we can even say NAD, because there's some companies marketing NAD,
Yeah.
So, and after that, I'd like to go down the different delivery mechanisms of NAD, but let's just start with the different, compounds. And tell me this, is NAC related at all?
No. So okay. NAC is different. NAC is a good detoxifying agent for your liver. It's a good antioxidant, but it's completely different.
Good to take.
Good to take. N-acetylcysteine, completely different.
Okay.
So your question on NMN is what's the most important. Right. Because NMN and NR, those are precursor molecules to make NAD.
Right.
So the big question, I think the whole medical community always knew that we need NAD.
Yeah.
Because again, that Krebs cycle, anybody who's taken anatomy, physiology, they'll remember the Krebs cycle.
I remember that.
This was like a nightmare. In med school, I could recite the whole Krebs cycle. Don't ask me about it now. Yeah. I understand its function, but I forgot all the steps. Yeah. But you know what's the most important step you need to know? NAD comes at the end, NADPH, transform into NAD and NAD+, and that's what makes the body the last step to make ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So once you realize that complicated Krebs cycle depends on NAD. So we know we need more NAD. Now, how do we get the NAD is a big question. So NMN and NR have been used a lot because those are the precursor molecules. Because the big question is, how does your body absorb the NAD? Right? So NMN, supposedly, there's really good studies that show when you take NMN, you have an increase in the intracellular NAD. Slight increase.
Got it.
So powder, tablets, the tablets of NAD Plus that they're selling, I don't see much with it.
Right.
The NMN, I see some results. It's a powder, you have to take it. It goes to the stomach. How much of it is destroyed by the acid in the stomach? We're not sure.
Right.
But that's one way to do it. Then the other way that's been very popular, it's IV. NAD. IV NAD is a tough thing. Have you ever had an injection of NAD?
I've never done it.
Oh, man.
I mean, I've heard negatives. I've heard side effects. You can probably talk on that. I've had a lot of friends. Well, and to keep it simple, the friends I've talked to when we've talked about this, they say they feel nauseous and hungover.
I don't want to feel like this. So I had one injection of NAD because in your mind, you're thinking it goes straight to the IV. That's the best way. Right. And it should be.
But more is not always better, right?
Exactly, man. More. And why am I going to feel that sick? So I had an injection. It took almost 2.5 hours. I felt so sick. I told them to slow down the drip. Felt nauseous, had stomach pain. You feel chest pain. So people kind of white knuckle through this. And they're like, oh, I feel sick, but man, it's good for your health. Come on. No pain, no gain.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not for this.
Yeah.
So I did not. So once I did my first NAD IV, I was like, no more for me. So I was doing NMN. Did I feel something? Maybe a little. You know, I was like, maybe I'm imagining, not sure. But because I know it's good for longevity, I kept doing it. Then we tried the NAD sub-Q, and that is the preferred form of NAD injection now. Subcutaneous route really has shown increase in the intracellular NAD. And I'm going to tell you, although we don't have long studies, there's no double randomized placebo-controlled trials on NAD. They've done some studies on NMN, but it is pretty... there's not great long studies. So that's a lot of anecdotal evidence that we have to see. I've tried NAD sub-Q, and I felt it.
Yeah.
My recovery was better. My energy was better. My mind is better. I like to do it in the morning because I still drink my coffee, but I notice I get this burst of energy, of feeling present, being here.
Yeah.
And it's really almost like you put 93 instead of 87 in your car.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Yeah. And I didn't have the side effects. With the NAD sub-Q, you feel a little zinger. So when I get my injection, it burns a little. At first, you feel like, whoo. But so I usually do the 50 milligram. I tried a 100 milligram injection. I kind of felt that was a little too much for me.
Yeah.
So I did the 50. I did the 100 milligram after a very heavy workout one time, and it was fine.
Yeah.
So the dosing on the sub-Q in anywhere from 50 milligram, that's the most common. 50 milligram a few times a week, 2 to 5 times a week. You can do 100 milligrams if you can tolerate, if you feel good. But that's the whole story. We don't have exactly what should be the best way of doing it. But we know that injections tend to get more directly into the cells. IV, it's not that I'm discouraging it, but if you can take that type of pain, good for you.
Right.
I can't, and I don't want my patients to go through this.
I know from the IV spas that we work with, we talk to, if you do like doing that, you can continue to do the IV and use NAD sub-Q between that as like a microdose 3-4 times a week to maintain your levels. From my understanding, your levels start dropping, after 30 or so, they're saying that they start dropping, 10%.
Yeah, so we don't have an exact number, but remember we talked about testosterone. Testosterone is the same thing from the age of 30. It starts dropping. 30 is that number, right?
Yeah.
At 30, everything starts going down.
Yeah.
Some people way earlier now.
Yeah.
We see in 20-year-old guys that are completely metabolically unhealthy.
Yeah.
So age doesn't determine if you need this. How you feel determines how you need this.
Yeah.
And again, if you think about the basic unit of energy is ATP, what helps your body make ATP? NAD+.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that if you suffer from fatigue, you're tired, brain fog, decreased recovery of exercise, just feeling blah, not being the best self, you should consider NAD as one of your supplements. Of course, when we do biohacking, we do hormone, we do longevity and wellness medicine, it's never just one thing.
Sure.
I'm not going to sit here and to say, you just take NAD, doesn't matter what you eat, you don't exercise, and you're going to be great. It is part of the protocol, including better nutrition, exercise, good sleep, stress management, hormone optimization at whatever stage, and then NAD becomes something on top.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the synergy of all this.
Yeah.
But NAD, again, because of its basic physiological function of increasing energy, of making ATP for energy, should be part of your wellness protocol.
I mean, this is something, like you said, to get the hormones right. I'm on testosterone, I'm on the peptides. This is kind of the cherry on top, right? To fully, and then there's all these other benefits, which I know, you know, like the hot one right now, hair, skin, and nails, right? I think it's safe to say anything that's helping your cells regenerate and stay healthy is going to keep you probably physically looking healthier too, right?
Completely.
I mean,
Completely.
Is there any data on that or how that affects the body, or is that just basic, hey, cells regenerate, you're healthier, you're not dying off as quick?
So that's it. Again, no double placebo randomized control studies on that, but it makes physiological sense. And when you think about skin and hair, those are the cells that we produce a lot quickly. So you shed so many hair cells. So your mitochondria, your DNA has to always been working to make new cells. So NAD helps with all of this, with DNA stabilization, with replication, so it doesn't make that much mistakes. So one of the good benefits of NAD, when NAD works, you will see changes in your skin structure. Your collagen feels different. I definitely experienced that. Same thing. And that's when you get into the 40s, 50s, start having skin laxity. I've no question see the difference.
Yeah.
Women love to take NAD because they see it on their skin pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So really, so when you look at all the benefits, whether they are aesthetic, physiologic, metabolic, anti-aging, neuroprotective, anti-inflammatory, so many benefits. Now, I'm going to caution something that, you know, if you have active cancer, to stay away from this. Because again, active cancer, those cells multiply fast, right? So you don't want to take it if you have active cancer. And then now the next question becomes, well, what if I don't know if I have active cancer and I take NAD? Will it make my cancer grow faster? So that's a theoretical question. We don't have any studies. It's never been something that we've seen. So if you have active cancer, you want to stay away from this. The same way if you have active cancer, you don't want to take growth hormone peptides, right? So those are the precautions that you want to be sure. But again, NAD is a dietary product. It's not, because it's so safe that the FDA doesn't regulate it, because really we haven't had any main issues. Another thing we want to talk about the metabolites of NAD. So that was raised at the last longevity conference that I went to. And those were the people that look at biological aging. They say, yes, NAD is really important. But there was a question whether some metabolites can accumulate and long-term can cause damage. Again, no studies. But again, like everything, more is not always better. You use NAD at the lower-ish doses. You know, that's why I like the 50 milligram to take a few times a week, just enough to support your body, but not to completely overwhelm your system.
And this is something that you would stay consistent, right? You're not cycling it. You just add this in as your normal weekly protocol.
Normal weekly protocol, normal. So I eat well, I exercise, I take my testosterone, and I take my NAD.
And I know we've had people that have said, you know, some examples were some older gentlemen in their 70s doing cycling, I think, was it, that even on their Whoop data, they're seeing more, I think, oxygen.
Yeah, so HRV, a lot of my patients who have their Whoop, who have their Aura, they see that when they do this, their HRV is so much better. Their recovery is better. Your sleep tends to go deeper. So for recovery, it's a big supplement for recovery. And again, when you think about the Krebs cycle and the way the body processes energy and processes waste, the exhaust, it really makes a big difference.
I've definitely noticed it. The days I'm sluggish or I'm sore, I can tell where I'll almost say, okay, I'm going to take my NAD today. And I feel I'm cruising the rest of the day. Kind of just not jittery, not caffeine, just natural, like I had a good night's sleep energy.
And I'm going to tell you, the first time I did NAD, I felt the zinger, but it was almost underwhelming. Right? Because sometimes you go in there, you're all psyched, you're like, oh, I'm going to feel this like jolt of energy. It's not this jolt of energy. You feel a little zinger. Then when you pay attention, you're like, whoa, I didn't feel that crash. I'm more focused.
Flow and clarity.
Flow and clarity and ease.
Yeah.
And I love this because for me, this notion of no pain, no gain, we need to take that away. When it comes to human physiology, more is not always better. You want the right amount, you want the right key coenzyme, the right starter, and it has to make physiological sense. And NAD Plus does check all of those boxes.
And one more thing I wanted to touch on that we mentioned, and maybe airs toward the addiction or related to that, where how it's helping reset your dopamine receptors and stuff like that. Do you think this could help someone with, say, like anxiety, depression? I don't want to say a mood disorder, but something like anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Is there any scientific data or evidence or, cycle that would...
Yeah. So again, no studies on this. But again, because it regulates dopamine and it does help with the neurotransmitter and the energy, we've seen a lot of anecdotal evidence that it does help. At our clinic, the ketamine clinic, the addiction clinic that we have, we use it a lot. And the reports we're getting, we went recently to an addiction conference, and NAD Plus is the buzzword in the addiction world. Yeah. Again, because, yes, as physician, as scientists, you want the double randomized placebo-controlled trial. That's the gold standard. But for a lot of things, especially in our space of advanced longevity medicine, we will not always have that. So we have to rely on good physiological knowledge and anecdotal evidence. And NAD Plus check both of those boxes. I love NAD because of my study of the Krebs cycle. If you study the Krebs cycle, you will understand why NAD is such a critical important part of making energy. One thing I've been doing also, combining it with GLP-1s, because GLP-1s kind of sap away your energy. With NAD Plus and you combine it, you restore your natural energy production through the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain.
So let me ask you that, because I know you deal with a lot of GLP-1 patients. Fatigue being a side effect of that. Prior to NAD, or even what do your patients tell you? What do people do to deal with that fatigue? Are they just slamming caffeine? Like, I'm sure there's unhealthy alternatives people are reaching to before NAD.
Completely. So when you think about it, a lot of the compounding pharmacies added B12 to their GLP-1 to try to help with that energy. People will do caffeine, Red Bull, anything, pre-workouts to try to get them. I'll just tell you, I'm so happy about my weight loss, but I'm exhausted.
So you're almost seesawing between fixing one problem and then
the other one. I'm a big GLP-1 component because of all the especially the decrease in brain inflammation and the willpower that it gives you. But if we can kind of decrease the side effect profile of GLP-1 and really get most of the benefits, that's why, for example, the combination of testosterone and GLP-1, it's magical because the one side effect of GLP-1 is the decrease in muscle mass. So testosterone, now you do testosterone, GLP-1 and NAD plus. This is like that stack. It's like that combo, Superman combo. Yeah. Right?
Dialed in.
Yeah. So again, NAD plus has become, rightly so, the new buzzword of the wellness and longevity world because of its action on ATP in the Krebs cycle. So let's show them what that pen is.
Let's do it. All I keep thinking is the powerhouse of the cell is just from science class.
Yeah.
So as you guys can see, we got the Vion, the NAD kit here. This is the starter kit, the pen. And we've done some videos on this before, but as you can see, and if you want to explain to them the dosing on this stock.
So that's really interesting. And this pharmacy that we get out of the UK, what they've done with their NAD, no preservatives. This is clean NAD. So you have 2 ampules, each one is 3 ml, and 3 ml carries 500 milligrams. So in that kit, you have 2 ampules of 500 milligrams, so you have 1,000 milligrams total. IV, usually it's about 500 to 1,000 milligrams. So that would be equivalent to usually a good IV dose, 1,000 milligrams. Usually what we recommend is 50 milligram injection, which on the pen, it would be 30 units. That's what most people do. I even recommend to start, there are some people who start with maybe 20 units, 15, but 50 units would be good. So 30 units on the pen, 50 milligram. So that pen, between that 1,000 milligrams, you would have 20 injection of 50 milligram. If you want to do 100 milligrams of NAD plus, you would do 60 on the pen as the injection. And if you do 60 on the pen, 100 milligram, you have 10 injections of 100 milligram. So for example, as you were saying, some people may say, I'm going to do IV once a month and I'm going to do 50 milligram 3 times a week as a maintenance.
Yeah.
Or some people may say, I'm going to do 100 milligram once a week or once every 2 weeks, and I'll do 50 milligrams 2 to 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So, and then you'll calculate, you have 1,000 milligrams total, how many injections that's going to do it. And look how sleek and easy it is with that pen.
It's amazing.
It's an auto injector. The needle is tiny. You don't have to count anything. This is technology meets longevity.
So you can see here the pen. You can remove the top if you like, and you can barely see there's a tiny little syringe at the top. But if you're not a fan of needles, this retracts in when you push against your skin when it punctures. So I prefer to be able to see the needle.
Me too. The needle is so small. You don't even feel it. You have to make sure you jam in it there. Do you get the little zinger, the burning?
It's a little.
Yeah, you feel it.
It wakes you up a bit.
Yes,
You'll get going. So you can see here, I already twisted it up to 30 on this dial right here. It's real simple. It loads up the syringe with the NAD plus, and then you just find some fatty tissue. Click, 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 zing. Bada bing, bada boom.
How easy was that? But I'm going to tell you, Chris, as the MD, you didn't use...
I didn't use an alcohol wipe.
You didn't wash your hands. So please, kids, don't follow what he just did at home. That was just a quick demonstration.
If you're at home, alcohol pads.
Wash your hands. But the needle is so small. That's smaller than an insulin syringe. You really don't feel the injection. What you'll feel is the liquid going in.
Yeah.
And after that, you have a little sensation that it burns. You're like, oh, sometimes I even almost feel it in my mouth. Almost gives me a little taste. You're like, oh, and then you're done. And then that's it. How easy is this?
It's easy. And then you're cruising the rest of the day. I mean, I wouldn't compare, like you said, to slamming a Monster or a coffee. It's cleaner than that.
Yeah.
It's like a true good night's sleep, clean, clear, focused energy.
Yeah. So it's subtle, it's clean, it's easy, but you feel it.
Yeah.
So, again, the physiology makes so much sense. I can't believe I'm going back to the Krebs cycle and talking about electron transport chain. My daughter, who's doing a physiology class now, I had to explain to her and go over the Krebs cycle, and it reminded me of all this. And I showed her my pen, and I told, look at this, you're in the 12th grade, you're studying physiology, the Krebs cycle, and now you see it in action in real life.
Yeah.
That what you study in books, now we have a way to influence it.
Yeah.
How
Innovation.
this. And then now when you have it in such a nice little pack, it's easy, you carry it, you keep that in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I love my pen.
Nice ice packs. It's travel friendly, people. I've got a lot of friends, they're big travelers, crypto traders all over the world. They love this thing, especially for traveling, something like jet lag, even stuff like that. It helps you just regenerate quicker. I think the biggest thing you said is just, it's fueling your cells' energy. Energy is the basis of everything. More energy is better always. And it's clean, natural energy. This isn't caffeine. This isn't a stimulant. This is your body's natural energy producing more with natural energy.
Yeah. So ATP, if you remember anything out of this, ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, is the unit of energy that our body needs. Mitochondria make ATP. We know how important mitochondria is. So the whole main function is mitochondria is to make ATP. And what do they need? We all know we need better mitochondrial health.
Yeah.
What do you need for good mitochondrial health? NAD+.
All right, Charles, so that's Vion, the NAD self-injection pen. You know how to find Dr. Rudy Best Life on Instagram. You can find me, Chris Burby Hansen, and more importantly, Vion.USA. Shoot me a DM. We can fulfill orders. We're distributing all of the United States. Tap in, man. Get the cleanest NAD out there, and it's super simple, super easy. Tap in.
Let's go.
The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe.